So the Sustainable Development Institute, SDI, is a non-governmental organization based in Monrovia. And then we work closely with communities in rural areas in Liberia. Our focus is to kind of support those communities to actualize their rights as containing Liberian laws, but also into international frameworks. And like I said earlier, we are the Liberian chapter of Friends of the Earth International, so we are part of this global network of environmental rights-based organization. We work closely with communities and companies to ensure that natural resources are managed sustainably and fairly. So our ideal is to ensure that resource extraction benefits the ordinary citizen, ordinary people, and does not provide harm for them. We focus more on land rights and broader human in agriculture. Our focus is our attention is drawn to agri-commodity, or palm specifically in Liberia. Our work is intended to hold corporations and the government to account to ensure that they themselves are in compliance to national laws, but also into international best practices and laws. And so this presentation, I want to bring forth an Equatorial Palm Oil, which is an oil palm company that has been operating in Liberia. And the history has changed specifically. Until recently, until June 2020, EPU was headquarters and registered in London, and it's on the AIM stock exchange. And so EPU has up to 14,000 hectares of land, and that has been allocated to them by the government, and 8,307 hectares of that land has newly been planted since 2014. And the EPU is also a subsidiary Libinco, and Libinco is an oil company with co-owning ownership by the Malaysian oil palm giant KLK. So that's the idea about a little background about Equatorial Palm Oil. Since their inception into Liberia and from 2019, not 2019, but 2009, 2010 up to 2014, the communities in which the company is situated have witnessed a lot of different irregularities and Liberian laws, international laws, but also reaching out to abuse of human rights and violation of their rights. One of the things we've seen over the years is inadequate compensation and broken promises. So the companies, as a means of getting communities to give consent into their request for land, they make promises that are unrealistic, promises that they are unable to fulfill, promises that in actuality would not happen in real life. And so they made those promises, and with the idea that if the community gave their land, and that's the end of the deal. So for example, I will give a classic example. When EPO decided to take an additional land from communities in Manitown, in Taloustown, in Morristown, in Wissettown, they kind of said to the communities, your cash crops will be paid, particularly the rubber crops that community had on the land. We will pay you up to $97 per tree. And the communities, based on that figure, based on that amount, they made a consent to give the land to the community, to the company. When the company cleared the land, then the company said, no, hang on, the government has changed the price for $97 to $6. We think those are unrealistic promises that the company made to take away land from community. In some instances, they actually grabbed the land without any formal consent. In Kwakbuk, in the community that EPU also took away land, and other in Taloustown, and they did not seek any formal consent from those communities. Their land were taken without any formal engagement with the communities, without any formal consent from the communities. And in instances where the communities have come and raised concern about the way their land was being taken, then they use intimidation and coercion. In some instances, they use state apparatus, state army to intimidate and torture. So if you look at the slides that are presented, and if my colleague Tom can show the slide, can share the slides, you will see actually the pickup truck on the picture showing the state security in the company's car, the state security in the company's car that are being used by the company to intimidate and torture community members who've raised issues about we have been consulted properly, and our land has been cleared without us getting just compensation. There's no formal MOU that holds us in connection with the company. And when they raise those issues, then the company, the government will use state apparatus and state security to intimidate them. Even land that are in dispute, where communities are having counterclaims for the land, the company will feel such conflict because they enjoy the benefit. So when the communities, adjacent communities are having conflict about land that are in dispute, the company use that to take a land with them, clear the land and plant their palm and say, look, we can hold an allegiance to any one community. It could be either community B or community A. So we don't have responsibility for that. So all of these things are violation of human rights and land rights that EPO has been able to exercise here in Liberia. Just going beyond that, we see that they've not provided safety measures for workers. So for example, there are chemicals that are being applied to the palm mainly by women and children and young people, to be specific, young people and women. And there are no chemical and protection. There are no hand gloves. There are no nose protection for workers who are there. There are also instances where the communities will work over a period of time, and then their names are not registered. In fact, they are daily hires. They are not employees of the company. So they work as daily hires, and in instances, supervisors and other people will delete their names from their daily work, so they don't get paid for those work. And there's a practice that when you don't get registered for 5 days, even though you may work for 25 days within the month, you don't get paid for the month. So all of those are a violation of human rights and land rights of communities. Based on that, we think the UK as a global leader should do a couple of things and legislate to protect the rights of indigenous people and the collective right to free, prior, and informed consent. In Africa, particularly, and in Liberia specifically, and our governance system is so weak. So if there are no laws to hold companies accountable outside of their countries, I think, and then the weaker system will get would be used by the companies to continue to do harm, to abuse human rights, and to destroy the environment. There should be robust protection for customary land rights. In Liberia, even though in 2018, Liberia passed a Landmark Land Rights Act, we've seen over the years that the companies and the government are not trying to live by the laws. And so if there are regulations in the company's home, like in the UK, to hold these companies responsible, then the companies are going to behave when it comes to certain parts of the world. There's no accessible grievance and redress mechanism. Even as we speak, the communities just named that they were made promises to give them $97 per one rubber tree, and they got $6 per rubber tree. There's no grievance mechanism within its company or within its state to kind of listen to their plights. So the communities have been crying. They've talked to journalists, national journalists and international journalists over the years, and they haven't gotten any redress. And they've been crying for years. So the laws should also ensure proper enforcement on corporations. And laws are one for one phase, but implementation and compliance is another. So if the UK is going to make laws, to legislate laws to hold the companies accountable, they should really push for proper enforcement on corporations and monitoring them and allowing third-party and people to share and monitoring reports with them at the international level. The legislation is to be based on consultation with citizens and NGO and producer countries. So you're not just making a law to be based in UK that the companies will say, okay, there is a law in the UK that we are part of, but that law should also be based on consultation with citizens and NGOs and producer countries, or allow NGOs and citizens to provide and monitoring information, documentation information to the UK Parliament or the UK government to take appropriate actions. And so, yeah, those were the points I wanted to share, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.